Okay, in this video I want to take a look at the employer's defence in an employment discrimination case. So the employee brings the claim against the employer claiming discrimination in the workplace. What is the employer's defence, if any? Well, there is a defence, and it's actually set out in the Employment Equality Act 1988. Firstly, let's just take a look at the situation though in relation to discrimination in the workplace. Section 85A of the Employment Equality Act 1988 sets out the burden of proof in a discrimination case. And basically, as you can see on the screen there, it says in any proceedings, facts are established from which the complainant, the reasonable inference can be drawn that discrimination has occurred, well then the burden of proof basically shifts to the respondent. You'll see there on the screen, it is for the respondent to prove the contrary. So the employee must establish facts from which a reasonable inference of discrimination can be drawn. If that's the case, the burden of proof shifts to the employer, and the employer must prove that discrimination did not occur. That's what I'm saying there on the screen, as you can see in relation to the burden of proof. Firstly, it's on the employee, then it shifts to the employer if the employee can show facts from which a reasonable inference of discrimination has occurred can be drawn. The defence, however, is set out in Section 14A of the Employment Equality Act 1988. So you'll see on the screen, it's a defence for the employer to prove that the employer took such steps as are reasonably practicable to prevent discrimination or sexual harassment or harassment in the workplace. This would involve having procedures in place in the workplace and communication of those procedures to employees. So that is the first step, the first defence or first plank in a defence for an employer. The second one, as you can see on the screen there, you'll see in a case where subsection 1A applies to prevent the person from harassing or sexually harassing the victim or any class of persons. That's one part of it. That's where the employer can show that they've taken reasonable steps to prevent such events occurring. And then in the last part of it there, as you can see on the screen, it says in a case where subsection 1B applies, to prevent the victim from being treated differently in the workplace or otherwise in the course of the victim's employment, and if and so far as any such treatment has occurred, to reverse its effects. In other words, the employer, once he or she is put on notice that discrimination has occurred or there's an allegation of discrimination, then they must take steps. They must carry out an investigation and have disciplinary proceedings, if appropriate, if there is substance to the allegation. But the bottom line is the employer must take steps to reverse the effects of the discrimination. So there's two parts to it. One is having a workplace, having policies and procedures in place which would prevent it, and two, taking steps if it has occurred, because clearly any employer is not able to guarantee 100% free workplace of abhorrent behaviour. Clearly he can't be or she can't be there every minute of every day to prevent wrongdoing going on, but what he must do is take steps if it does happen. The takeaway for the employers is there's two parts to the defence. One, what did you do beforehand to try to ensure that no discrimination occurs in your workplace? For example, did you have necessary policies and procedures in place? Secondly, the second part of your defence is once an allegation or complaint of harassment is made, then have you taken all reasonably practical steps to deal with the complaint and to reverse the effect of any harassment which has occurred? So clearly that's a sort of an investigation and a disciplinary situation if necessary. Hope you find this video useful. My name is Gorry. As you can see on the screen, my contact details are there. If you do find it useful, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up down below, and you may be interested in subscribing to my YouTube channel.